Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something straight. Life doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care about your past, your struggles, or your fears. Life only responds to one thing: action. And right now, if you're sitting here making the same mistakes, repeating the same nonsense, and expecting different results, you know what that is? That's stupidity. And it's time to stop. Stop being stupid. You were not born to play small. You were not born to settle for less than you deserve. But here's the hard truth. If you keep doing stupid things, you'll keep getting stupid results. You want a better life? You want success? You want respect? Then you've got to get your mind right. You've got to stop sabotaging yourself, wasting time on things that don't matter. Stop letting fear and doubt dictate your decisions. Stop being stupid. Take responsibility. Let's talk about responsibility. Not the kind of responsibility that's handed to you like showing up to work or paying your bills. I'm talking about the kind of responsibility that changes everything. The kind that shifts your life from being a series of random events to a deliberate, purposeful journey. Taking responsibility is not just about owning your mistakes, it's about owning your life. It's about recognizing that you are the author of your story, and every decision you make or don't make shapes the outcome. The illusion of control. Here's the truth. Most people walk through life believing they have no control. They blame their circumstances, their upbringing, their boss, their partner, or even the weather for where they are. They say things like, "I didn't have the same opportunities," or "life is just unfair." And while it's true that life can be unfair, here's the hard truth. Blaming your circumstances doesn't change them. It only keeps you stuck. The moment you realize that you have control over your choices, your attitude, and your actions, everything changes. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your destiny. Taking responsibility is not about denying the challenges you face. It's about refusing to let those challenges define you. It's about saying, "This is where I am, but it's not where I'm going to stay." The power of ownership. When you take responsibility, you take ownership. And ownership is power. Think about it. When you own something, you care for it. You invest in it. You make it better. The same applies to your life. When you own your decisions, you start making better ones. You stop waiting for someone else to fix your problems, and you start fixing them yourself. You stop waiting for the perfect moment, and you start creating it. Ownership means acknowledging your role in every situation, good or bad. If you're unhappy in your job, ask yourself, what can I do to change it? If your relationships are struggling, ask yourself, how can I improve them? If your health is declining, ask yourself, what habits do I need to change? Ownership is not about guilt. It's about empowerment. It's about recognizing that you have the power to change your life one decision at a time. The courage to face the truth. Taking responsibility requires courage. It requires you to face the truth about yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your mistakes, and your potential. It's easy to blame others or make excuses, but it takes courage to look in the mirror and say, "This is on me." And here's the thing, the truth may be uncomfortable, but it's also liberating. When you stop hiding from the truth, you stop hiding from yourself. And that's when real growth begins. Facing the truth also means letting go of the need for approval or validation from others. When you take responsibility, you stop seeking permission to live your life. You stop waiting for someone else to tell you that you're good enough, smart enough, or capable enough. You realize that the only approval you need is your own. The ripple effect of responsibility. When you take responsibility, it doesn't just change you, it changes everything around you. Your relationships improve because you stop blaming others and start working on solutions. Your work improves because you stop making excuses and start delivering results. Your confidence grows because you know that no matter what happens, you have the power to handle it. Responsibility also inspires others. When people see you taking ownership of your life, they start to believe they can do the same. Your courage becomes their courage. Your determination becomes their determination. By taking responsibility, you become a leader not because you have a title, but because you led by example. The path to freedom. Here's the paradox: responsibility is often seen as a burden, but it's actually the path to freedom. When you take responsibility, you free yourself from the chains of blame, excuses, and victimhood. You free yourself from the limitations of other people's opinions and expectations. You free yourself to create the life you want on your own terms. Freedom doesn't mean life will be easy. It means you'll have the power to face whatever comes your way. It means you'll have the resilience to keep going even when things get tough. It means you'll have the clarity to make decisions that align with your values and goals. Responsibility is the key that unlocks that freedom. How to start taking responsibility? If you're ready to take responsibility, here's how to start. Acknowledge your role. Look at the areas of your life where you're unhappy or stuck. Ask yourself, what role have I played in this situation? Be honest with yourself. This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about understanding where you have the power to make a change. Stop making excuses. Excuses are the enemy of responsibility. Every time you make an excuse, you give away your power. Instead of saying, I can't, ask yourself, how can I? Instead of saying, it's not my fault, ask yourself, what can I do to fix it? Take action. Action. Responsibility without action is meaningless. Once you've acknowledged your role and stopped making excuses, take the next step. Do something, anything to move forward. Even small actions can create momentum. Learn from your mistakes. Taking responsibility means learning from your failures. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Use every mistake as an opportunity to grow. Celebrate your wins. Responsibility isn't just about fixing what's wrong, it's also about recognizing what's right. Celebrate your successes, no matter how small. Acknowledge the progress you've made and use it as fuel to keep going. The bottom line: taking responsibility is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong commitment. It's a mindset that says, I am in control of my life, and I will not settle for less than I deserve. It's a promise to yourself that you will stop blaming, stop complaining, and start creating the life you want. So, ask yourself this: are you ready to take responsibility? Are you ready to stop being a passenger in your own life and start being the driver? The road ahead may not always be easy, but I promise you this, it will be worth it. Because when you take responsibility, you take control. And when you take control, you unlock the power to create a life of purpose, passion, and fulfillment. The choice is yours. What will you do with it? Think before you act. In a world that moves at lightning speed, where instant gratification is the norm and impulsive decisions are celebrated, the idea of thinking before you act might seem outdated. But let me tell you something. The ability to pause, reflect, and act with intention is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. It's the difference between living a life of purpose and living a life of regret. It's the difference between building a legacy and cleaning up messes. Thinking before you act isn't just a good habit, it's a game changer. The cost of impulsiveness. Let's start with the obvious. Impulsive decisions rarely lead to good outcomes. How many times have you said something in the heat of the moment and regretted it later? How many times have you made a snap decision that ended up costing you time, money, or relationships? Impulsiveness is like driving a car with no brakes. It might feel thrilling at first, but eventually you're going to crash. The problem with impulsiveness is that it bypasses your rational mind. It's driven by emotions, instincts, and external pressures, not by logic or long-term thinking. And while there's a time and place for spontaneity, most of life's important decisions require careful consideration. Whether it's choosing a career path, investing your money, or navigating a difficult conversation, thinking before you act ensures aligned with your goals and values. The power of pause. Thinking before you act starts with one simple but powerful tool: the pause. The pause is that moment between stimulus and response where you have the opportunity to choose how you want to proceed. It's the space where you can step back, take a breath, and evaluate your options. The pause is where wisdom lives. When you pause, you give yourself the gift of clarity. You create distance between your emotions and your actions, allowing you to respond rather than react. This is especially important in high-pressure situations where emotions run high and the stakes are even higher. The pause is your lifeline, a reminder that you don't have to be a slave to your impulses. You have the power to choose. The role of reflection. Thinking before you act isn't just about pausing, it's also about reflecting. Reflection is the process of asking yourself meaningful questions before making a decision. Questions like, what are the potential consequences of this action? Does this align with my values and goals? Am I acting out of fear, anger, or ego? Or am I acting out of love, courage, and purpose? What would my future self thank me for doing? Reflection forces you to think beyond the immediate moment and consider the bigger picture. It helps you avoid short-term thinking and focus on long-term results. Reflection is like a compass. It keeps you headed in the right direction, even when the path is unclear. The importance of planning. Thinking before you act also involves planning. Planning is the bridge between intention and action. It's the process of breaking down your goals into actionable steps and anticipating potential obstacles. Planning doesn't mean you have to have everything figured out. It simply means you're prepared to navigate whatever comes your way. For example, if you're considering a career change, thinking before you act might involve researching your options, talking to people in the field, and creating a financial plan to support the transition. If you're dealing with a difficult relationship, it might involve setting boundaries, practicing empathy, and seeking guidance from a trusted mentor or therapist. Planning doesn't eliminate uncertainty, but it does give you a roadmap to follow. The balance between thought and action. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Thinking before you act doesn't mean overthinking. Overthinking is when you get stuck in analysis paralysis, constantly weighing pros and cons but never taking action. Overthinking is just as dangerous as impulsiveness because it keeps you stuck in place. The key is to find the balance between thought and action. Thinking before you act means gathering enough information to make an informed decision, but not so much that you never make a decision. It means being deliberate but not rigid. It means trusting your intuition but not ignoring logic. The goal is to act with intention, not hesitation. The ripple effect of intentional actions. When you think before you act, the benefits extend far beyond the immediate moment. Intentional actions create a ripple effect that impacts every area of your life. They build trust in yourself and in others. They foster respect for your time, your energy, and your resources. They create momentum, small, consistent actions that lead to big results over time. Intentional actions also set a standard for how you want to live your life. They send a message to the world and to yourself that you value thoughtfulness, integrity, and purpose. They show that you're not just drifting through life, you're actively shaping it. How to cultivate the habit of thinking before you act. If you're ready to start thinking before you act, here are some practical steps to get started. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being present in the moment. It helps you become more aware of your thoughts, emotions, and impulses, making it easier to pause and reflect before acting. Start with simple mindfulness exercises like deep breathing or meditation to build a skill. Create a decision-making framework. Develop a set of questions or criteria to guide your decisions. For example, you might ask yourself, will this bring me closer to my goals? Or is this in alignment with my values? Having a framework in place makes it easier to think clearly, even under pressure. Set boundaries. Learn to say no to things that don't align with your priorities. Setting boundaries gives you the space to think before you act, rather than being pulled in a million different directions. Learn from experience. Reflect on past decisions, both good and bad, to identify patterns and lessons. What worked? What didn't? What would you do differently next time? Use these insights to inform your future actions. Seek feedback. Don't be afraid to ask for input from trusted friends, mentors, or colleagues. Sometimes an outside perspective can help you see things more clearly and make better decisions. The bottom line: thinking before you act is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about making choices that move you closer to the life you want, rather than further away. It's about taking control of your actions rather than letting your actions control you. So, the next time you're faced with a decision, big or small, remember this: you have the power to pause, reflect, and act with intention. You have the power to choose wisely. And when you do, you'll find that life becomes less about cleaning up messes and more about creating something meaningful. The choice is yours. Think before you act. Your future self will thank you.